What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Wednesday. Hope everybody's having a great start to their day. Talking about the AFC South and what's happened with the reshifting of the AFC South hierarchy, with the Jags off to a 2-1 start and everybody else struggling to get out of the gates this NFL season. So we'll tell you guys about that new AFC South power rankings and where they're at. What does that mean? Where are the Titans in their quest to win the AFC South for the third consecutive year? Who is the bigger threat to the Titans for the AFC South? Is it this week's opponent, the Indianapolis Colts, or the 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars? We'll go through that. And then I think an interesting conversation too is what's one thing about the Titans that keeps you confident in their ability to win the division? So we'll discuss all of these topics, and it is Wednesday, Zach, which means throwing shade on a Wednesday. I've got some shade that I've been stockpiling since last Saturday. So get ready for that. Throwing shade every Wednesday to wrap up our shows. So welcome in. Let's get the party started.
Yeah, let's get this thing going. Welcome in. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. That's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We got you covered. We'll be tweeting out those YouTube links throughout the course of the show, segment by segment, on our Twitter at A to Z Sports. So give us a follow there and subscribe to our YouTube page, A to Z Sports Nashville. If you're a Tennessee Volunteer fan, if you're a Preds fan, if you're a Titans fan, we've got great content going out constantly, whether it's live shows, whether it's recorded clips, whether they're YouTube shorts. We've also got inside locker room access from our Titans reporter, Sam Phelan. We do a bunch of stuff that a lot of people don't see on our other socials on our YouTube, so subscribe there. And also subscribe to A to Z Sports Film Room. Hit the search bar right there on your YouTube. We're breaking down NFL film on a daily basis. So we got you locked there. Just search A to Z Sports Film Room and subscribe to that channel. Facebook, what's going on? Facebookers, bottom left corner of your screen. Share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing on this show. And, you know, we're here to get to 100,000 Facebook followers. And how we're going to do that is you guys need to share the show. More people are going to be piling in over the next 5 to 10 minutes as you guys do. Please share now to public. We got to pop up in those Facebook friends news feed, and let's get this party started on a Wednesday.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome to the A to Z Sports, powered by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over social media, as we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure you see the link to the show out on our Twitter timeline, also on our Instagram. Follow us on TikTok as well. But we got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they make it work for you guys. And that is Wilson County Hyundai. If you're making them a part of your new car buying process by going to see them in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Plus, Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. Better coverage, rates, and service at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Hughes and Coleman Injury Lawyers, the official injury lawyers of the Tennessee Titans. If you've been injured in a car wreck, call them today, 800-800-4600. So, Zach, I guess you deserve a little bit of a golf clap here because you were higher on the Jags than I were. The Jags are currently 2-1 atop the AFC South after a beatdown of the banged up, injured LA Chargers on Sunday. So 2-1, Jags off to a hot start. So golf clap to you. I will let you revel in that.
Well, I thought this last year, but Urban Meyer screwed it up. I liked Trevor Lawrence. I think he needed developing. And one of the things that Trevor Lawrence has struggled with, and I watch all the Jags games. Like as I've stated, I sit here and I watch every single game. I'm not a red zone fiend. I've got actually red zone on one of the screens, but I'm watching these games. And what I saw last year, and this is what Urban Meyer struggled to do for his small tenure with Jacksonville, that Doug Peterson, I felt like, could do with Lawrence and some of the new pieces, is Lawrence is not very good in the pocket making quick decisions, going through read 1, 2, 3. That's something that Ryan Tannehill is very good at. Ryan Tannehill, to keep defenses on their toes, Ryan Tannehill will roll you out, will use his athleticism, will use naked bootlegs, but also will stand in the pocket and make the throw downfield, get hit in the face, and get the first down and move the chains. Trevor Lawrence is still developing in that. But you know who's come to play? A guy, again, I think you criticize Christian Kirk quite a bit. Christian Kirk has stepped up, and
I don't.
He's worth the money.
Let me just make this clear.
Money.
I don't criticize Christian Kirk for taking the contract that he got from the Jags. That he should absolutely take all the money you possibly get. I criticize the Jags for giving Christian Kirk that money. That's what I criticize.
Christian Kirk has been worth that money. Just like A.J. Brown has been worth his money in Philadelphia. Just like Deebo Samuel has been worth his money in San Francisco. Christian Kirk has been worth his money. Again, it's just through 3 games, but he's kind of changed the dynamic of what the offense is. And Doug Peterson has made up some big plays to get Lawrence out in space, making decisions. Lawrence throws better on the run than he does in the pocket, and Kirk is better coming across the field than I think other routes that I've seen him run.
He's a fast guy, right? So you don't run like intricate like routes with start and stops and cuts. You just run fluid crossing routes with Kirk, and that's where he wins.
And the Jags, again, it's 3 games. I'm not sitting here saying that the Jags are going to win the AFC South, that they're going to push for an AFC championship like they pushed for in 2017. But I did see the improvement of what the restructuring of Jacksonville and then the cold hard cash that they spent, because they had it, right? Just like the Colts had a lot of salary cap going into this offseason, the Jags did too. The Jags spent it where Zay Jones was another guy who's got to kind of catch his footing and develop within their offense. But Austin, the thing that has separated the Jacksonville Jaguars is defensively. They have been opportunistic. They've gotten after the quarterback. I think that's what got them to the AFC Championship years ago against the Patriots. It was the Calais Campbells, the Jalen Ramseys of the world. Like the defense separated them. And so they're building something. They're in year 2 of building it, but I like what Doug Peterson has been. And I'm not as surprised as maybe the world is at their 2-1 start.
All right. So the ESPN.com power rankings came out after week 3 yesterday, and the Jags made a crazy jump. They went from 24th, Zach, after week 2 when they beat the Colts to 13th. So they're right there on the cusp of where playoff teams are when it comes to power rankings. So 13th in the NFL power rankings, according to ESPN.com. Here's what Michael Duraco for the Jags reporter wrote about it. Trevor Lawrence looks like a number 1 overall pick. After a rough start in the opener against Washington, he has posted the 2nd and the 3rd highest rated games of his career in routes of the Colts and the Chargers. Trevor Lawrence is 6th in the NFL in total QBR and 7th in completion percentage. Most importantly, he's not turning the ball over. He just has 1 pick, and he's flourished under new head coach Doug Peterson after a lost season with Urban Meyer. And, they also have a better defense, like you said, which was not mentioned in that. But yeah, they've posted, back-to-back blowouts as underdogs to the Colts and to the Chargers. Now, they lost to Washington, who sucks. Washington's not that good of a football team, right? And if I scroll down here, where do I find the new Washington Commanders? You got to keep scrolling to 26th overall in the power rankings. Their only win is week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I think the biggest thing for the Jags is the fact they've also only allowed Trevor Lawrence to get sacked 2 times in 3 games, right? And the one good thing Washington has is all their top picks on the defensive front. The Colts have a good defensive front on paper. The Chargers have a good defensive front on paper, yet Trevor Lawrence only sacked 2 times. So what's your thoughts on the Jags being 13th? And I'll just go ahead and run through it. The rest of the AFC South, the Jags are 13th. The Titans are 18th after moving up 4 spots from 22 last week. So 18th now for the Titans. The Colts are at 20 after their win over the Chiefs. And then the Texans are dead last at 32. So 13, 18, 20, and 32 for the AFC South. What's your reaction on the overall power ranking structure there?
Well, right now where it sits in the season, that's correct, right? There, Jacksonville is 2-1. They have, they've won the most games in the AFC South so far. And then there's a separation between, and I lump the Colts and the Titans together, and coincidentally, they play in Indy on Sunday, right? So, like, that's the best part. We're going to find out who separates those two teams, and we'll talk more about that throughout the course of today and the next couple of days leading up to Sunday. Jacksonville, the reason why they are good, and it just goes straight to the stats. In total team offense, they're 6th. In total team defense, they're 7th. They're top 10. That's what they've shown. And those are total yards, right? Total yards given up by the defense and total yards gained by their respected offense. Jacksonville should be there. I think the Titans and the Colts are on very similar paths where they started out with rocky starts. The Colts should have never tied the Texans to open the season.
No, they should have lost to the Texans.
Yeah, yes, and well, or
tied.
they actually should have beaten the Texans at one point in that game in overtime. I don't know if you watched that game.
Yeah,
but
okay, all right. But my point is, they were down 20-0 and came back to force overtime. The Colts were lucky to force overtime, with the Texans giving up that 20-0 lead. So that's what I'm talking. I'm talking pre-overtime, Zach. I'm talking pre-overtime. The Colts
talking game.
I understand.
But that's what I'm saying is that the Colts had an opportunity to win that game, and the better team usually wins those games. Like, usually the cream rises to the top. The Colts are better than Texans. Last week was massive for both of those teams. The Titans were in desperation mode of going to 0-3. They had to come in and beat the Raiders 24-10 at half, and we all know that their second half is not what it needed to be. They escaped, but won that game against the Las Vegas Raiders. And it's the same thing of what the Colts were. The Colts fought tooth and nail to get the lead at the end of the game, but there was, like, I believe 26 seconds left at the end of the game where the Chiefs is plenty of time for Patrick Mahomes to come tie it up. The Chiefs, 2 plays, boom, they're past midfield, and that third play in that final drive to go attempt a game-tying field goal gets tipped, pick, game over, right? So, like, 2 plays defensively for the Titans and the Colts to seal a win. That's what they needed to carry them over. But the separator of those 2 teams are going to be this week on Sunday in Indy to see who wants it more, who's better prepared, and who has learned more from the first 3 weeks of the season. That's what will kind of separate them. And then the Jags, the Jags are kind of like, okay, we've gotten off to a good start. Can they maintain? Notoriously, the Jags don't maintain very well.
Yeah, A to Z Sports here live on this Wednesday. Let's go ahead and ask our question to get the chat more involved. I do see we have some visitors in the chat from Jacksonville fans have found the show this morning on YouTube, at least. So that's interesting. So we'll see what they have to say and what everybody has to say, because the Titans are the 2-time defending AFC South champions. So who is the bigger threat to the Titans for the AFC South? Is it the Colts or is it the Jags? But first, let me tell everybody about our great friends and our new sponsors, Hughes and Coleman. They are the official injury lawyers of the Tennessee Titans. And if you've been injured in a car wreck, call Hughes and Coleman for a free case consultation. That's 800-800-4600. That's their phone number, 800-800-4600. You get a free case consultation, and they will go to bat for you and battle against the insurance company to make sure you get every dollar that you absolutely deserve when you've been hurt and injured in a car wreck. So check them out. They've recovered over $1 billion for their clients in the state of Tennessee and in Kentucky. So go check them out. Once again, if you've been injured in a car wreck, 800-800-4600, Hughes and Coleman Injury Lawyers, principal office in Nashville, Tennessee.
A to Z Sports, we're powered by BetMGM. You can download the app today. They're the king of the sports book. Use the promo code ATOZ Sports, all one word. Risk-free bet up to $1,000 for new users. So then you're in the state of Tennessee, download the app in your app store, whether you're Apple or Android. Go download BetMGM. Then when you sign up, there's a promo code tab, and just punch in ATOZ SPORTS, all one word, and then you get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 on your first bet for new users. They're the king of the sports book. They are BetMGM.
All right, so the question here, and Zach, I'll send you to the chat. The Titans are the two-time defending AFC South champion. Who is the bigger threat to the Titans in the AFC South? Is it the Colts or is it the Jags? What's everybody saying here?
Steven says the Jags. It ain't the Colts from ADE. We've got Jaguar emojis from Shy067. The Jaguars from Lou Man, who's speaking a different type of English. Let's see. David says Jags. Billy says Colts. Rooney says Colts themselves from Mark. So he's gone away. We didn't necessarily put complete stipulations on them.
Come on, Mark.
So Mark the question. Is throwing a curveball in there. We've got Jags. Nate says Colts. Jags from Eric. Noah says Colts. Daniel says Colts. Grim Jim's going with Mark with the Titans themselves. It's the Jags from Alonzo. Jason, the Titans are the biggest threat to the Titans. So
why
we've got three different
options. We gotta stop this nonsense.
Hey, it's
not the question.
That's in the comments.
No, it's not the question though. So I'm trying to stop the nonsense of people answering without an option we gave them. We clearly gave the commenters two options. Who's a bigger threat to the Titans in the AFC South, the Colts or the Jags? I don't want to hear any more about Todd Downing or themselves or turnovers or Ryan Tannehill. That's not what we're here for. We're here to have a conversation about the Colts versus the Jags. We've talked all week long about the Titans so far. We'll look against the Titans and the Colts moving forward, but we gave you two answers. Use one of the two answers. That's the question we were asking. Stop being stubborn.
What's your answer?
My answer right now, honestly, I think I have to go with the Jags. Now,
that wasn't real confident in there.
Hold on. But the Colts did just have a very impressive win over the Chiefs. And I think there's some things that the Colts did to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes on offense that it could be used as a blueprint on how to handle the Chiefs offense without Tyreek Hill moving forward. And we'll talk about that later on, but throughout the year, because the Titans play the Chiefs on Sunday night. But I think why I feel like the Colts will struggle and why they are not the bigger threat to the Titans as of right now is because of their offensive line and just their overall offensive issues. Like, we download pictures of Matt Ryan to use for graphics and all this stuff. I feel like almost every picture of Matt Ryan on our photo database is him evading some type of pressure from an opponent. Like, rarely are there clean pictures of Matt Ryan standing in the pocket with a football. There's usually some defender coming around the corner or making a hit or him trying to make some move on the guy, and he's kind of a statue, so that's hard for him to do. But their offensive line is bad. And I think Matt Ryan is truly seeing deja vu in Indianapolis from what he's been doing in Atlanta for the last several years of his career since the Super Bowl run. So the Colts offensive line and their lack of pass protection for Matt Ryan makes me put them below the Jags, because the Jags O-line's playing well. I mentioned that. Lawrence sacked only twice in the first 3 games. Only 1 interception from Trevor Lawrence in those 3 games as well. They're running the ball and passing the ball very balanced from the Jags offense, which is good. And then their defense has players on it because they've been bad. So they've been drafting talented guys, and you're seeing their defense make plays. So that's why I have to right now go with the Jacksonville Jaguars as the bigger threat to the Titans.
Yeah, I said this at the beginning of the season. It's the Jags. I think that they are going to improve throughout the course of the season. Now, obviously, barring injury. If Trevor Lawrence goes out, that's going to, change that. But if he plays all the games like he played last year, then he's just going to improve. He's on that pace of, and this is not a comparison, but the improvement of Joe Burrow from year 1 to year 2, that's a big time step. And look, he was injured in year 1, but year 2, he took that confidence leap. That's what we're starting to see through 3 games of Trevor Lawrence. Here is my struggle, though, Austin. Between the Jags and the Indianapolis Colts have the best player. And the best player is Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor, who is kind of like Derrick Henry this year, has not really got going. Hasn't had the 127-yard, 164-yard game that separates and puts a nail in the coffin. We have not seen that from really either back. Derrick Henry did it more last week, but still, that was kind of a combination of receiving passes and rushing. You have to respect Jonathan Taylor's ability, and Jonathan Taylor is the X factor to help all of the things of what you just said that are wrong with the Colts. Their bad offensive line. Matt Ryan is fumbling the football at a unbelievable pace, right? Like he's getting pressured. He's not doing well with those pressures. He struggled. He didn't score a single point against the Jags, right? But Jonathan Taylor, I think that's kind of a little bit of my fear heading into this week for the Titans is I think this is like your prototypical best player versus best player. Whoever has the best game, that team is going to win. That is Taylor versus Henry. We're going to see that. I can't wait to see that. I'm really excited about that. But I think the threat, and it comes down to threat, I think you got to watch out for week 18, Jacksonville and Tennessee, because they are playing the better team. The Texans, I think that the Colts will right their wrongs. I don't think they're going to lose to the Texans twice. I would be surprised.
Yeah. So
I think that, and that's honestly, Austin, how I position the Jags when we did our season predictions at the beginning of the season. I positioned them as a threat. I didn't say that they were going to destroy the AFC South or win the AFC South, but they were a threat to the AFC South.
So, Zach, you said Jonathan Taylor's yet to have that big game this season?
Yeah.
You watched the Texans game, though, right? The Colts-Texans game in week 1. Remember, you said you watched all the games?
Yes.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor had 31 carries for 161 yards and a touchdown, averaging over 5 yards a carry in that game. So there's
in
the
a
one
loss.
Big in a tie because you watched it, right? In a tie.
No, it is a tie. I think that.
Well, I mean, again, so you watched it, though, right?
You
watched it. I mean,
That's how they got back into the game, but he started slow.
So Jonathan Taylor has had the big game, and the Colts tied the freaking Texans, and so I still think, and that's why I struggle.
He was the reason they got back into the game,
but you
right?
didn't mention
Because they were down early.
You mentioned
But
about how he has. You literally
they
tied.
They tied. They tied.
Okay,
and that's why I hate ties. But again, in my mind, that is a loss for the Colts. It is a tie. I will relinquish. It is not a loss.
But again, Jonathan Taylor has had the big game that you said that he hasn't had yet. Jonathan Taylor has nearly 100 yards more this season than Derrick Henry. He's averaging 95 yards a game. The problem is the only time Jonathan Taylor did not really do much for the Colts is when they lost to the Jags and they got blanked because the Jags got up. And that was the issue with last season's start with the Colts, is because Carson Wentz was so bad and the offense got down early and they started 0-3, and Jonathan Taylor didn't get going until damn near Halloween because they weren't giving him the football. Go back and watch and look at the numbers from the Titans win over the Colts early in the year. Jonathan Taylor was effective when he got the ball. Frank Reich just wasn't giving him the ball. And so he only got 9 carries in that loss against the Jags, but he gained 54 yards. That's 6 per carry. He had 71 yards rushing in a gutsy win over the Chiefs. And so, overall, I think that the Colts have the lowest scoring offense in the NFL through 3 weeks. Having a goose egg in one of your first 3 games will lead to that, especially when you had 20 points in the 2 other games. So I just don't believe the Colts offensive line, who, by the way, is the highest paid offensive line in the league. I don't think they're any good at pass protecting. And so if you can make the Colts be one-dimensional and take away their run, get a lead on them early, then you can take away their best aspect in Jonathan Taylor. It's kind of similar to how you go about with the Titans in taking away Derrick Henry. But the Titans offensive line has been much better than the Colts to this point.
Yeah, well, and you have to. Matt Ryan is going to be what defines the Colts' success ultimately, right? Like Jonathan Taylor is going to keep them in games and is going to compete. But at the end of football games, as we know, how many times was Derrick Henry on the field on the last drive to go win the game against the New York Football Giants?
Zero. Oh, that was a 2-minute drill with like a minute 20 on the clock to go 80 yards.
That defines wins and losses, right? So
Yeah.
when the and that's that I've always said this. That's the problem with the Titans football philosophy is that if the game does not go the way that they need it to go, they are relying on their lesser tier, I don't want to say lower tier, but lesser tier players, which is Ryan Tannehill, Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, Austin Hooper, and Kyle Phillips in their passing game, and they don't get to their bread and butter. And they've won games in overtime. You remember the Texans? I guess it was the Texans when Lawan tore his ACL. That went into overtime, and that was a Derrick Henry. We're just going to hand it off to you, hand it off to you. It's too late in the game that the Texans can't tackle Derrick Henry. So I think when you come to threat this week, if the Colts beat the Titans, though, do you still feel the same way?
Who do the Jags have this week? I know they're going into a somewhat challenging spot on their schedule. Now, they got past the Chargers, and that was an impressive win, beating the Chargers by 28.
Play at Philly.
At Philly. So that'll be, really interesting too. So at Philly is going to be tough. And, Justin Herbert's injury puts a little bit of a, do I believe the Jags were really 38-10 over the Chargers, or is that just the situation where they got on that game? So
yeah,
Jags
I think the Jags are not 38 or 28 points better than the Chargers. Justin Herbert, obviously, with his rib injury, and defensively, the Jags played very well. They took advantage of that.
Yeah, and so, is that a true result that we can, base our future, guesses or predictions about? I don't know. I maybe if they do something against the Philadelphia Eagles, then okay, then that Chargers win really means something. So, again, they're both threats to the Titans in the AFC South. I just think the Jags right now are more stable with their offense and their defense. The Colts defense is the best thing they have for them because their offense has been that stagnant. I mean, Matt Ryan's been sacked at an average of 4 times a game.
I don't know how much better Matt Ryan can get. I think Trevor Lawrence can get a lot better. I think that's my final answer. And quarterbacks influence outcomes. And so if you're going to sit here for the rest of the season, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to improve. And I think Matt Ryan, the probability, and this is what the Colts have struggled with, right? Their quarterbacks have low ceilings, whether it's Carson Wentz, whether it's Jacoby Brissett, whether it's Phillip Rivers. Over the last several years, those guys just can't bust through. Ryan Tannehill has a ceiling himself, right? I think it's higher than Matt Ryan, Jacoby Brissett, and Phillip Rivers' ceiling was just good. It wasn't really, and he was good that last year. I think he established that by leading him to the playoffs. But I think for Tannehill, he could be a little bit better than that. The Colts' ceiling at quarterback it has a ceiling, and you can't bust through that.
And Nav says Matt Ryan has 7 fumbles. Well, no, he has 3 fumbles, not 7. He has 3 fumbles, but he's only lost 1. So Matt Ryan, through 3 games, has 4 interceptions and 1 lost fumble for the Colts. That's 5 turnovers and 3 touchdowns overall. I mean, they've only scored 40 points in 3 games this year. So they have a lot of issues.
Quick heat check real quick. It's Wednesday going into the Titans-Colts matchup. It's obviously a massive game early in the season. And notoriously, the Titans play the Colts early in the season, and it's season defining a lot of the times, right? Because you look back and you're in week 14, 15, and you're like, damn, they beat the Colts. That was huge. Do you feel kind of the same way? Do you feel like the two teams are even? Is there an upper hand? What's your heat check heading into this week?
I feel like both teams are desperate for this win, equally. both teams equally desperate for this win, which is going to make for an interesting game. I honestly, it's Wednesday morning. There has been zero injury reports for either team. Shaq Darius Leonard, whatever the hell he wants to call himself now, changes his name. He is likely to play this week for the first time. So it's going to be you have to pull out all the stops to win this game. And does Terrence Mitchell play? Does Caleb Farley play? Does Traylon Burks, Robert Woods make plays on offense? Does Derrick Henry return to that stadium where he broke his foot and get redemption on that turf? I don't know, but it's going to be a good game.
My question of how I feel, do both teams' tendencies stay true? The Titans start very hot. The Colts start very cold. If you look at their 3 games, is that going to stay the same? Are the Titans going to get a lead? Because that's what the Titans want. They want to play with the lead because usually Derrick Henry helps them in the second half. That wasn't necessarily the case against the Raiders, but that I think is probably the defining thing is, do the tendencies of these 2 teams over the last 3 games stay the same or do they change?
Yeah, interesting. I do see Howard on YouTube says, I hope to see Austin and Zach here in Indy come tailgate with you. Well, we will not be tailgating. We will be doing our Titan Game Day live show, our pregame, halftime, and postgame show. Like
he can tailgate with us.
Yeah, I mean, you can turn us on there, Howard, at your tailgate because we go live on a pregame 30 minutes before every Titans kickoff this season, then have halftime reaction and also our postgame show on these same YouTube and Facebook and Twitch channels that we're talking about. What's up?
Real quick, Eric brings up Racing McMath. That's a rule change this year for IR. So it's not 3 games like it was last year. It's 4 games. And yes. I like how the NFL did that.
And
it means more. I mean,
you are now limited to only 8 players that you can bring back off of IR, where last year you could bring as many players off IR as you damn well wanted to. So Racing McMath, Monty Rice, Elijah Molden are all eligible to return from IR against Washington. It doesn't mean they will. It just means that they are now eligible to, depending on their injury. Just because they're eligible and it's been their 4 games doesn't mean they're physically ready to do it.
Yeah, that's going to come down at the end of the season. Oh, yeah, that's going to get dicey at the end of the season when maybe a premier player goes on IR for 4 weeks. He's going to come back, second last week to the season. You've already elevated 7 guys, and now you got to pick.
Well, history lesson. If you go back to 2019, why the when can Malcolm Butler come off IR thing became such a big deal in Buck Rising's Twitter mentions that year is because that was pre-COVID, right? You can only have 2 guys come off IR in that season, but it was an 8-week IR, not a 4-week or 3-week IR. And the Titans used that on, I think, Josh Kalu and Ryan Suckup that year. And so they brought those guys back off IR after 8 weeks. And Malcolm Butler broke his wrist against the Panthers in week 7 or 8. And so he could have come back if he was healthy enough, but he was out there catching passes pregame with a broken wrist recovered. But he couldn't do it at that point.
That's what makes the NFL great. Is the NFL, look, the Pro Bowl, it's probably taken them a lot longer than it needed to change that damn Pro Bowl. They finally did that. But it took a pandemic for them to figure this out, but they're finding their right temperature, right? Last year, 3 games and anybody, right? The gates are open is probably not the right strategy because teams are going to take advantage of it. Now they regulate it a little bit more. I like the 4-week. It's kind of like a quarter of the season, and you got to make tough decisions at the end of the year, and you have to play that game. Austin, the Titans wouldn't have survived last year with the rules this year. I thought played, that was a John Robinson. That was a golf clap for John Robinson last year of how he, finessed the roster to get them to where they ended up at the end of the season, which was the number 1 team in the AFC.
All right, A to Z Sports Live on this Wednesday. We've talked 35 minutes about the AFC South. Now let's go back and focus on the Titans. What's one thing about the Titans that keeps you confident in their ability to win the AFC South? What's one thing about the Titans that keeps you confident in their ability to win the AFC South? But Zach, tell everybody about Wilson County Hyundai.
Yeah, Wilson County Hyundai is where you need to go to get your next ride. The perfect make and model is right around the corner. Quick trip down I-40, exit 236. Payne Bone, who owns Wilson County Hyundai, it's family owned and operated, will hook you up with a great deal at a great price with great fuel efficiency. That is what their fleet has. It could be the Palisade, which is a full-size SUV with third-row seating and all the bells and whistles. It could be a four-door sedan like the Sonata that I love. I love the Sonata. You can dominate the streets with your brand new Hyundai Sonata. They also have the Elantra, the Santa Fe, the Tucson, and the Ioniq. The Ioniq is battery powered. It is not fuel efficiency because it's not fuel efficient because it doesn't need any fuel. It's all battery powered. They can order one today at wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
Don't forget, download the BetMGM app, and if you do it, use our code ATOZ Sports, because that means you get a risk-free bet on pro football up to $1,000 with your first bet. So if you're going to join the BetMGM family like Zach and I, then you got to make sure you do it the right way. That's with promo code ATOZ Sports, and you get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 on pro football with your first bet. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions subject to qualifications and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as knowledgeable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire in 7 days. For problem game support, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. Zach, we asked the question. I'll send you to the chat again. What's the one thing about the Titans that keeps you confident in their ability to win the AFC South after a 1-2 start to the year?
Mark Jones says Mike Vrabel. Nav says Derrick Henry. Karen is enjoying the show, as are we. Sean says Derrick Henry. Play action passing from John. All right. Little Kilo says Derrick Henry. Mike Vrabel from Noah. Vrabel Scott. Daddy Vrabel from Stephen. Mike Vrabel from Isaac. Derrick Henry from and this is a tough one. R3KT 3E. He watches the show. I've seen it before, but man, does it mess me up because I just want to call you Richter. I'm going to just call you Richter from now on. Steven says Derrick Henry. Mike Vrabel from Jake. Assad says Mike Vrabel. Outside zones from MF Loco. Zach says Vrabel. Derrick Henry from Roy. Lou Man goes with Randy. Little Randy Bullock right there. Jason says crappy division. George says Jeff Simmons. Henry / Byard from Nate. The other team's losing from our guy Valentino. Ditching the pitch from Danny. Jay is still thinking.
The pitch.
Right? And they did that and they won their game.
Now, how long will they ditch? Will they continue to ditch the pitch, or was that just a one-game thing?
I think that they will. The premise of ditch the pitch will stay. Premise, they will pitch and do toss sweeps because Derrick Henry has had big runs before on them. They just got too reliant on them. I mean, he has had them before. In the history of Derrick Henry, there has been a run where a sweep has gone for a big game. You cannot say that. On
a straight up like toss, like Ryan Tannehill reverses out and tosses the ball to Derrick Henry. There's a difference.
Because I'm not saying the percentages are high, but it has been successful at one point. So they used it too much. We've established that. I liked the way that they ran Derrick Henry against the Raiders. They need to use that philosophy. Ryan Tannehill's health, I saw those. So here is mine, and not a single one has brought this up. My biggest question mark was pretty obvious going into the season, and that was the offense. The offense was going to be different because A.J. Brown, Julio Jones were gone. Julio Jones didn't do much. Robert Woods showed me this past weekend that he has the capabilities of making some big, big plays. My answer is Robert Woods. I was really impressed with what he could do with his routes, with his yak, with his catching ability, with his reliability. And I hope within this offense, and you would think that Ryan Tannehill is just going to become more comfortable with throwing number 2 the football. this team is only going to go as far as its passing game. It's a passing league, guys. They're a running football team, and Derrick Henry can win you some games. But we saw in their AFC Championship run, they ran the ball very well against the New England Patriots. Win. They ran the ball very well against the Baltimore Ravens. Win. They did not run the ball as well as they needed to against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And ultimately, it came down to throwing the football. Ultimately, they could not do that very well. And so I do think that will prevent them from winning a Super Bowl. But Robert Woods, I liked what I saw. So I'm going to go Robert Woods.
All right, Nick Ewing, who makes some crazy comments from time, but he says Woods wasn't letting the Titans go to 0-3. He showed leadership and backed it up. And then Jody says, stop using Woods in the punting game. Like, Jody, are you blind? Did you just not watch any of the 3 games with the muffed punts from Phillips and Amani Hooker in the first 2? And then Robert Woods comes in, catches punts, and then sets up a 21-yard return to set up a end of half field goal opportunity.
Well,
I mean, come on.
I think they're probably saying what you were saying about I guess I was saying this about Adoree Jackson, right? Is the value of what he was. I think you were saying that. The value of what Robert Woods brings. The problem is they have a massive issue at punt returner. And it has been proven that guys that don't have the skill set and the experience like Robert Woods, they can't do it. Amani Hooker was their backup. It was their safety net. And he came in there and muffed it.
Right.
Muff punts can kill games and kill teams.
We've seen it happen to the Titans a lot. And Jody says he's going to get hurt. It's risky. Look, ideally, you don't want Robert Woods to return punts because you want somebody less important to the offense to do it. But when that person is muffing punts, and also remember, Kyle Phillips was out. He did not play against the Raiders. So the Titans on your punt return. Do you think he
should get another opportunity?
I think he should, and I think he will. Yes, I do think he will. I don't know when that's going to be because I don't know what his shoulder injury is.
I don't think he should. I think he's screwed. Look, fool me once, don't fool me twice. And
I think he should.
He got fooled both times.
I think he should, but after the shoulder injury is recovered. So if the shoulder thing is going to be a thing this entire season, don't put him back there.
But he was asked about that, Austin, and he said the shoulder had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and Cairo Santos said he could have made the 57-yard field goal at the end of the Bills game in 2019, and Vrabel still put him out there, and he couldn't do it, obviously. Players are always going to answer questions like that.
But he said it was mental. You'd rather tell him the smarter thing to do would be to say, yeah, my shoulder probably messed me up on that catch. But mentally, I'm psyched out.
Players are programmed to, and he wasn't mentally, I'm psyched out. It was mental that he didn't read the punt correctly. It wasn't mentally, I have the yips. No, I think you're making
being mentally not prepared is worse than physically hurt.
Zach, you're making him saying it was a mental thing, not a physical thing, as in he was mentally not prepared. You're taking the mental word too far, I believe, in this situation. He made a mental error. It wasn't yeah. And again, and that Craig Aukerman talked about in detail, I guess it was last Thursday, about how there's so many different things that go into returning punts, right-footed kicker versus left-footed kicker, how the ball is going to turn, where the nose is, and all that thing, where Kyle Phillips, is still young in that skill set. It's not easy. People think catching punts is easy. And so I'm seeing people saying, put Roger McCreary back there. Why? Put Kyle Haskins back there. Somebody says, why? Because
I put Caleb Farley back there.
If he can do it, if that's the time he's going to get to play, put Caleb Farley back there. Damn, he's not going to play.
Serious? Are you serious?
I'm throwing things out, but my point is that Kyle Phillips did it twice, and they were both mental errors, and that is a massive part of returning punts. And that's why Robert Woods, I'm not sitting here beating down the doors saying, what are you doing putting a veteran back there? I think they have to, because they have to overcorrect. They've muffed 3 punts, not 2. Not 1, but 3. So
3 and 2
they've had to overcompensate with this problem within their team.
Yeah. Look, the guys who were returning punts in training camp were Kyle Phillips, Amani Hooker, Traylon Burks, then guys you cut like Mason Kinsey, Terry Godwin, Brandon Lewis, and Reggie Robertson. Those were the guys returning punts all throughout training camp. Robert Woods can do it because he's Robert Woods. He's 30 years old. He's been in the league for a long time. He just knows how to catch punts. He does that all the time, just on his own. But like Traylon Burks, for everybody who's calling out for Traylon Burks to return punts, you didn't watch him return punts in training camp. Catching punts off the jugs was harder for Traylon Burks than the others. So why do you think he can catch it off of a player's foot? Traylon Burks catches punts with his hands. That's not how you're supposed to do it. That's the easiest way to muff a punt, is to try to catch it with your hands. And so it needs to be Robert Woods until Kyle Phillips' shoulder heals completely. That's how I think about it.
Well, the premise is no one cares. Like you have to do your job. And that job is so impactful to the game if a mistake is made, right? Like that's the difference of what a punt returner represents. Look, Mark Mariani, I mean, he is the notorious Titan. He is reliable. He had some great punt returns, but when he was back there, you didn't feel like you were standing on shaky ground. And right now, that's what Robert Woods brings to the team. I don't know if they're going to give Kyle Phillips another shot, because Austin, now you got 2 strikes, right? A third strike, you're done for your career. You're not going to be returning punts in the NFL. So
look, nobody's disagreeing.
And the Titans don't have the luxury. They're 1 and 2.
Yeah, and Mike Vrabel was asked about Kyle Phillips, and he said he would like to give him more opportunity, because you saw what he did earlier in the game where he had a 46-yard punt return. So he's got really good ability to return punts. He's muffed 2, and he's got a shoulder injury, so he should not be back there until he is fully healthy. Again, that's how I think it, because you're one of the most vulnerable positions you can play in football is a punt returner, right? Because you're having to track a football and keep your eyes up and down on the players. You're vulnerable there to get hit. And so with a guy who has a shoulder injury and you're trying to catching punts has to do with your shoulders, right? Keeping your elbows in and all that stable and ready to go. He should not field another punt in a game until that shoulder's good to go. And until then, Robert Woods got to do it.
What keeps you confident in the Titans' ability to win the South? I don't believe you've answered yet.
Yeah, and I'm going to take this into a bigger conversation, because I do think we haven't really touched on it much. But before I answer my answer, I'm going to tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, maybe like Kyle Phillips, you got a bum shoulder, go to the Bone and Joint Institute and they can take care of it. If surgery is needed, they've got you covered. If physical therapy is needed, they've got you covered. In Franklin, with their main campus, also satellite studios and campuses in Brentwood and Thompson Station and in Nolensville, boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports, powered by BetMGM. Download the app today. They're the king of the sports book. Use the promo code ATOZ Sports, all one word, in the promo code tab, and you will get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 for new users. Go to your Apple or Android app store and download the app today. We're hooking you up with that promo code ATOZ Sports.
All right, so what keeps me the most confident in the Titans' ability to still win the AFC South is what we saw on Sunday against the Raiders from Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry. He's tough to tackle. He's still elusive in the open field, and he can get going when the blocking is halfway adequate. He can't get going when he's having to getting hit 3 yards in the backfield every time. That's something that no running back besides maybe Barry Sanders can get away with. But Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry. And I feel confident in the Titans being able to ride their best player and use him, because what he does is establish the run, which creates play action passes. And Ryan Tannehill rarely makes those awful mistakes off of play action passes. Rarely are his interceptions off of play action. Most of Tannehill's interceptions are off of straight dropbacks, miscommunications, bad reads, bad throws, etc. But Derrick Henry being the focal point gives me confidence, because I have rules in football. Like, it's the AFC West is the Chiefs division until it's proven otherwise. The Jags can't stop Derrick Henry until I see the Jags stop Derrick Henry. And it's been a long, long time since Derrick Henry has been stopped by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Jags have been able to beat the Titans. So that's where I feel the best about this is Derrick Henry's still that guy, and he'll be able to get you in games and win you in games throughout the season.
Well, they need him more than ever on Sunday in Indy. This needs to be the Kings game that comes out and, separates them and gets them to 500 and gets them a divisional win against, an arch rival to set the tone for the season. Because you look on the other side of that, you're then at Washington, very winnable game, and your season. That's why I said, and we both said this, 0-2, none of us truly panicked. Now, there was some big time concern, right? Because you're 0-2 and you just kind of pissed the Giants game away. And the Bills game you were never in after midway through the second quarter. I never once thought that the Titans were dead, because they still had the Raiders and the Colts. And if you get the Raiders and the Colts and then the Commanders, essentially, you could flip your season, and now you're 3-2 with the divisional win, and you're not looking that bad, right? Like, you're actually looking pretty good, because the Jags are going to have to play the Eagles this week. They're undefeated. That's going to be a tough game for them. And you're kind of settled back in atop the divisional race. So now I will sing a different tune if they lose to the Colts, because you're now 1-3, and now the Commanders game in Washington turns to a must win, because you cannot go 1-4. 1-4, you're dead. 1-4, you're not going to make it. I just truly believe that you're not going to make the playoffs. So you got to avoid that. We'll talk about this on our pregame, halftime, and postgame show, but especially our pregame show. Is this a must-win game, right? Because of is it too early in the season? Like, what does this represent? We'll go through all those storylines, but this is really a swing for the early part of the season for the Tennessee Titans to right their ways and settle into who they want to be. We talk a lot about identity. Games 4, 5, and 6 is usually when you find a singular team's identity for the season, because the Titans have seen adversity, they've failed against adversity, and they've succeeded against adversity. And then they got a couple more games to really, truly find out who they are. I'm really excited for this game on Sunday. It's got to be a Derrick Henry type tone setter for the season, but massive game in Indianapolis.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through, Zach. And, Derrick Henry, if I take out the game where he broke his foot against the Colts last year, where he had like 20-plus carries after the broken foot, Derrick Henry's last 8 divisional games, right? 2 before the broken foot last year and 6 in 2020. He's run for over 100 yards in 7 of those 8 divisional games. 7 of those 8. The only time he did not was the first game against the Jags when they beat Gardner Minshew 33-30. And then he put 215 on the Jags later on that same season. He's had 3 200-plus yard divisional games in those 8 divisional games too. So Derrick Henry does really, really well against divisional opponents when his foot's not broken. And so, as long as his foot stays intact in Lucas Oil Stadium coming up on Sunday, I expect him to have a strong game too.
Well, and look, I think the Colts are probably going to have to sell out to try to stop them. That's when your offense starts to move. that, as you said, that's where Ryan Tannehill is really, really good, is when the defense is king on something instead of playing stand pat defense or playing to a offense's weakness. And so this is a cat and mouse game. Man, it's only Wednesday. I want this thing to be here. I'm ready.
I know, right? All right, so let's do it. Let's throw shade on a Wednesday because we always throw shade at the end of the shows on Wednesday. But first, Zach, tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, FBHP.com. You got to go there to change your health plan. I changed my health plan at the beginning of this season and this year. Oh, man, it was a great decision. It was one of the best decisions that I've made for my health and my plan and my pocketbook, to be honest. The last several years, I honestly had crap-ass health plan. It had been bad. Not good. And my eyes opened to what a health plan should be when I joined Farm Bureau Health Plans. I get free teeth cleanings. I get a allowance for my contacts because I've been wearing contacts since I've been in 7th grade. I get great benefits like free teledoc conferences when I'm sick. You know, that's the new way of the world. You don't necessarily have to go into a doctor's office and wait and then sign in. And you can go to a teledoc conference. That helped me when I had the flu this past spring. And Farm Bureau Health Plans has helped me in numerous ways. Better service, better rates. They've got you covered. And there's 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. So a real big benefit for Tennesseans alike. They've been doing it for 75 years. That's FBHP.com/ATOZ. That's FBHP.com/A2Z. They'll hook you up with a quote, and then you can make your decision yourself.
All right, don't forget, download the BetMGM app. Use our code ATOZ Sports, and you easily get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 on pro football after your first deposit. So do that now with the BetMGM app, code ATOZ Sports. Time to throw some shade. Shade on a Wednesday. That is what we do every Wednesday. I see some shade here. Ryan says shade on Terrence Mitchell almost blowing the Raiders game on Sunday. Brent says throwing shade at second half. Titans outscored 57-7 in the second half in 3 games this season. Eric says shade on people that walk on the street when there's a nice, beautiful sidewalk right next to them. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. My only thing that I understand is, Eric, if it's a jogger who is jogging on the street rather than the sidewalk, I give them a pass because asphalt is what the street is made out of. It is way more forgiving on knees and joints than concrete sidewalks. So if it's a jogger, give them a pass. If it's a walker, that's stupid.
Yeah, the tough ones are bikers too, like not like motorcyclists, but
do you know
regular
bikers. Do you know where
bikers.
bikers are supposed to be?
Where?
The street.
Yeah, but it's a tough scene when you're in a situation and there's multiple bikers and you can't pass them because they're not going the speed limit, right? Like, obviously they're not going the speed limit. So like that is a frustrating situation where you're sitting there like, get the hell out of the road.
Right. But that's
I feel like everybody's been in that situation.
Yeah, but bikers on the sidewalks are dangerous to the pedestrians. So it,
doesn't mean that I can't get frustrated to get off the street.
Yeah. Charlie says, my shade is when I respond on here, my comments get overlooked. Look, Charlie, nothing
Charlie,
personal.
well, you just lost that.
Yeah. Well, we never overlook certain people's comments. Like, we just get over 1,000 comments a day. Sometimes it's just hard to see everything.
Yeah, full disclosure. We do not pick and choose the comments. I go and like the love of the show I give out, and there hasn't been a love of the show yet because there hadn't been a good enough comment because I don't pick it, right? Like it just organically happens. So that's to clarify. And Charlie, thank you for saying your shade. And I think clarified ours with that. So, Aaron's had one. Shade on NASA and SpaceX for moving the date of the upcoming Crew 5 launch, now scheduled for October 4th. My question to Aaron, who I know is a big NASA guy, is, did you get the binoculars out or the telescope out to see Jupiter and the 4 moons? And did you know that one of those 4 moons is the most volcanic moon of all moons?
Which moon is that, Zach? Do you remember the moon?
That's Io.
Yeah, you got it. Io. I'm seeing a lot of shade on Hurricane Ian coming through up towards Florida right now, and that's changing some things. Zach, I've got 2 shades, so I'll do a shade sandwich. My first shade is not that serious, but why in the world would Tennessee at LSU get scheduled for an 11 a.m. Central kickoff? Why in the world would you do that? LSU is great at night. We all know that. Every college football fan knows that Death Valley is an incredible atmosphere at night. And you've got a top 10 resurgent Tennessee program coming off a bye week, going to Baton Rouge, and you put it at 11 a.m. Central Time? Like, Baton Rouge is in Central Time. This isn't like an Eastern time zone team playing at noon. It's like an 11 a.m. Central kickoff for what I think is going to be a top 25 matchup, because LSU should wax Auburn this upcoming weekend. So why would you? And then you're putting Georgia and Auburn on CBS. Like, nobody's going to watch Georgia beat Auburn by 30 points next Saturday. They would rather watch Tennessee play LSU at least as a 2:30 kickoff, but an 11 a.m. kickoff is stupid for that game.
They're doing the same thing for Ole Miss, who's 14, and Kentucky, who's 7, at 11 a.m. Now, you may sit there and say, nobody cares about those teams, which I can completely understand. But the fact of the matter is, that's a top 15 matchup back-to-back, and that's at 11 a.m.
Well, and so I do understand. I do understand that both ESPN and Fox are putting higher priority on that early kickoff because, you have college game
they're
days,
competing.
Because, you had the pregame shows, and then you walk into a dud game. Everybody's like, all right, you want to lead into something good.
I will say the Texas-Alabama game was phenomenal to start my day that day. And that, I don't know when the last time Alabama has played a top 10 game at 11 a.m. ever.
Well, and that was like the most viewed game of regular season college football game in history or something.
But that was great. I actually really liked that. So I like the 11 a.m. games that I'm not attending, right? That I'm going to watch in the comfort of my own home, or I'm going to go grab some brunch or lunch and watch these games starting at 11, drink a Bloody Mary and not have to worry. But if I'm in Oxford and I'm on the square on Friday and I got to get my happy ass up at 7, 8, 9 a.m. to go tailgate before that really makes it tough on fans.
Yeah. Dwayne says nobody watches UT. Yes, Dwayne. A lot of people watch UT. In fact, in the same weekend that Alabama and Texas was there, the second highest viewed college football game that weekend was Tennessee Pitt. So yes, people watch Tennessee, and Tennessee draws big ratings, and they just do, especially when they're playing this well and they're playing at LSU. This isn't like Kentucky and Ole Miss. They're smaller branded programs.
But LSU is not, I'm not saying they're down, but the loss at the beginning of the season really hurts. It hurt their momentum, and the perception of what LSU is.
All right, Zach, what's your shade?
My shade is something I experienced this past weekend. I was in Virginia Beach for a wedding, and I'd never been to Virginia Beach. Cool little, it's kind of like a beach town. It's kind of random, but we're looking for places to eat. My shade is on restaurants that don't have websites. I ran into that 3 times. All they have is their Facebook page. Find some sort of money, and it wasn't just one, find some sort of money to create a website so I can look at your menu to see if you're worthy of my taste buds at that point in that juncture in time. But don't be cheap where you just have a Facebook page and I don't even know where a menu is on a Facebook page. So be a little bit diverse and care more about your company. And look, I don't know whether it was just a little beach town thing, but that was frustrating. So I didn't pick the restaurant because we're in information overload, right? I need to know what the menu is in those type of situations before I go. If it's a very nice restaurant, we have reservations and somebody has invited, me and my fiance as a couple or whatever, I will go in there blind because I like the excitement of the actual menu. But when you're trying, you got a group of people and you're the one deciding, that's a lot of pressure on one person.
I hate picking food for other people. That's anxiety. I can't stand that.
And I will say it worked out in my favor because I was in charge, and I like being in charge of that just because that's my personality.
Really?
I'll make the decision. I'll make the decision. And it was one of the best meals we had all weekend. So it worked out. But avoid restaurants that don't have websites with no menus.
Well, I do think it could be a beach thing because when my wife and I went on our vacation to the beach this summer, you see a lot of those with those mom and pop beach kind of shack, like beachside restaurants who could be great. Like they could be great. They just don't do the internet, but they do food really, really well. But yeah, pay a little bit because I came across a lot of the menus posted online that was somebody took a picture with their phone of the actual physical menu and uploaded it online. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's quick shade. And this, I struggle with this, and thankfully this will, be just for a short period of time. But J. Rome asks, did I say fiance? When did this happen? I got engaged at the beginning of July, and I can say this because she's not at home. But what does make me like uncomfortable that I do not like, I don't like the word fiance. Like I don't like saying fiance, but I can't say girlfriend. Like I look, wife makes sense, right? But fiance, it's like I'm trying to like reel you in on something to like ask more about that. And I don't need those questions. So my side shade is on the word fiance, of having to say fiance when you are engaged. And that's the only word to say because you can't say girlfriend and you can't say wife. It is fiance. I just don't like the word. And that hopefully I won't have to say that on air anymore.
Well, yeah. Nick's right. It sounds pretentious.
Oh, it does.
Don't
ask me about it. Like, oh, well, congratulations, man. That's so great. Like, no, I was just trying to tell you the story of what situation I was in, who I was with, not necessarily that I just recently got engaged.
Yes. Because fiance sounds like you're fishing for a compliment, right? But you're not. You're just trying. Again, I'm with you. And Alex Tardy says, just call your fiance your ex-girlfriend. They love it. And you can't say you can't say like these days you can't say partner or business like we are business partners, but we're not like partners. And then you can't say significant other because that could be like you're trying to give respect to the level of commitment that you've made to the person, right?
Right. And that happened to me. I was at a restaurant and was talking to a hostess, and I was like, yeah, and I don't know why I said this, but like I said it like partner, not like partner, but like, yeah, I'm waiting on my partner. And it was one of my buddies, male friend, but I was like, oh, well, and not like there's anything wrong with that, but like that's not what I was trying to say. But you have to call him like it is, right? Like, yeah. And here's another thing, like the beginning of a relationship. And I remember being on the phone with somebody, and my now fiance, then girlfriend, but we weren't like girlfriend yet. They were asking where we were going and who I was with. And you can't say, yeah, I'm with my friend, because I'm with a female companion. You can't say female companion. So I said girlfriend. And we actually recently talked about that. That was when she was like, because I never really asked her, I was like, will you be my girlfriend? That's just not kind of how I work.
This is freshman year of high school.
That was the moment because I was forced into a situation kind of like earlier in like 5 minutes ago of saying what you are within the realm of society and life.
Yeah. MB says you could say, how about pre-wife? That sounds like forceful. Like I don't know, like pre-wife doesn't sound right either. So anyway, all right. So here's
a side rant. Sorry.
No, I think it's funny. Here is my actual shade. is that on Saturday, Bussin' with the Boys put out that we're, bad news. The boy Lawan's out for the year with a knee injury, right? And Buck Rising at A to Z Sports have reported that earlier in the week on Tuesday that Lawan was feared to be lost for the season with a knee injury. So then Saturday, after Bussin' with the Boys comes out and confirms that, the NFL puts this tweet out. Titans Taylor Lewan knee out for the season via rap sheet. No. Ian Rappaport had nothing to do with anything that happened about Taylor Lewan. So my shade, Zach, is on ESPN and the NFL Network for always funneling and giving credit to their people for things that they did not do. It drives me up the wall. I wouldn't have had an issue if the NFL said per Taylor Lewan's podcast. I wouldn't have been like, oh no, where's Buck's credit? Where's ADD's credit? I wouldn't have cared. But the fact that they made it Ian Rappaport did this, no, he did nothing. Ian Rappaport did not do anything when it came to that besides quote tweet Bussin' with the Boys tweet. This is incorrect. The NFL Network just credits Ian Rappaport for everything, just like they do Tom Pelissero and just like ESPN does with Adam Schefter. It's not correct. It's misleading. It's lying to the audience.
It's a business decision, right? They're trying to create their guys and pump them up. It's a strategy. Just like Bussin' with the Boys is a strategy, right? Is you break your own news instead of somebody else breaking it, right? And Bussin' with the Boys, it's a strategy to get more followers, to get more podcast listeners, to make more money. I get the game. We're in the game. I get it. But it is frustrating to see. I think that's your shade, right? Is the frustration of looking and saying, well, that's not how any of this went.
No, that's not how that works. And so I view like Tom Pelissero. I don't have anything personal against Tom Pelissero. I'm sure he's a hardworking guy and does a good job. But Tom Pelissero was chosen by the NFL to be the guy, just like the WWE chooses who's going to win the belt. It's the same thing.
That's a pretty good analogy.
That's what it is. Like the WWE sits down and writes the script for the year, right? And they're going to say, look, whatever happens in the ring, yeah, that's real action and real injuries happen and all that stuff. But they write what the screenplay is going to be. NFL Network said, all right, we've got Ian Rappaport. We need this other person to rise up. So let's just create Tom Pelissero and have him win the belt. That's what that is.
Here's a little wrestling knowledge based on that. Do you know what the wrestling lingo is? And I know you don't because you don't know in wrestling. And I'm not even either. Actually, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson taught me this. Our future president is. Do you know what they call the bad guy and the good guy in wrestling when they're writing these scripts?
Well, I know the bad guy is the heel.
The heel, correct. Do you know what the good guy is called?
Hero?
No.
I don't know the good guy. I knew the heel. The heel was the baby.
David. Ding, 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 ding. Baby face. They call him the baby face. That's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson taught me that in some the wrestling biographies on the Biography channel. I think it's maybe on A&E. Really good. Like you don't have to watch wrestling to enjoy those. But I do. I see the analogy of like the NFL decides.
Pelissero, the people's champ.
If you smell.
And again, nothing against Tom Pelissero. He's probably a good, nothing about it. But the NFL chose that he was the guy. Like this is the NFL choosing guy who is going to be the next news-breaking reporter, Tom Pelissero. Welcome, everybody. This is Tom. That's just how it works. All right. That's enough for today. We'll wrap up this Wednesday show. All right, let's
what if we did a podcast that had nothing to do with sports? Like that was a good, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 minutes. I don't know what it is. But that was a good, I mean, we bounced from a lot of different things and I thought that was a pretty good segment. We're not going to change, so don't worry.
Don't
but
freak out.
That was good talk right there. A lot of topics.
Don't forget, subscribe to us on YouTube. Catch us there. Titans have practice today. They have locker room availability today. Sam Phelan will be there to give you inside the locker room access to the Titans on our YouTube channel. And as always, Buck Rising live tonight for A to Z Sports prime time at 8 on these same channels. And we will see you guys tomorrow morning on a Thursday. Talk to you then. Appreciate it as always.